All right, let's get to the matchup of the week. This segment is sponsored by NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV. We get the Miami Dolphins red hot offense going against the Patriots defense on Sunday. I mean, the Dolphins were an absolute machine last week, but the Patriots defense gave that Colts offense a headache over the course of that game. And that Patriots defense, I think, is as advertised in a bunch of different ways. What is the aspect of this matchup that you were most excited to watch on Sunday?
As always, when you see an awesome defensive mind against a really good offense, what's the plan? What do you lean into? What's your gimmick this week, or do you lean into your fastball? This Patriots team last year that we've touched on that played a little bit differently than Belichick defenses in the past, a little bit more too high, a little bit more cover two quarters, all these a little bit less blitzing. And then when week 1 against the Eagles, it was like, no, it's still a Belichick defense. It was all man, all cover 3, all cover 0. Those were the same 3 pitches. And it was so cool to see this Patriots defense that has so much team speed, way more than they ever had before. And they're going against a Dolphins team that has the speediest of team speed, period. Just really cool kind of styles make fights thing. But I just want to talk about this Patriots defense real quick, is that they have the size up front, but the DB room is so deep and has so many different pieces. We think of that usually.
How many guys do you think played for the Patriots defense last week?
I actually know. They played 8 DBs and a rookie who's listed as a linebacker / DB, Marte Mapu. Also played. So that's like 8.5, I guess. 8.5 DBs played.
20 guys played 9 snaps for the Patriots on defense last week. 20. 9 snaps. 18 guys played at least 10 snaps for the Patriots on Sunday.
And they're playing the Eagles offense. It wasn't like just some joke game. It's like, no, this is a game you got to lock in.
Trying to keep track of who's on the field and where they're playing in this group is very difficult. You have to watch every single play 3 times to understand who's actually out there.
The two DBs that played every snap were Duggar and Christian Gonzalez. So my guy Duggar, but then Christian Gonzalez as well, who had a couple moments of good and bad, but he provides an element in that DB room that they didn't have before.
So the plan, I think, is the number one question I would have. Do they play a lot of man? Do they not? So when these two teams played last year, when Tua was healthy, they played about 50% man on third down, but I believe that was the opening game of the season. It was before we knew what the Dolphins offense was. So we actually haven't seen the Patriots plan for a Tua Dolphins offense since they became the unit that we've come to know. So I don't really have a sense of what they're going to do. So that would be my number one question. But then if you look at it up front and in the back end, the Patriots defense is a ridiculous mismatch for this Dolphins offensive line. The way that group played on Sunday, we already knew that they were good last year. Okay. You have that group where it's Christian Barmore, Dietrich Wise, and then when they're in pass rush situations, you have Judon and Josh Uche, and it all kind of comes together in a way that makes sense. It's a good combination. I was high on that group as composed in 2022. Then you drop Keon White into this situation.
Dude,
that guy looks ridiculous.
He was bull rushing like a monster against the Eagles. He is great.
By a lot of ways, like 350. And he was putting him in Jalen Hurts' lap multiple times in this game.
And Uche got Lane Johnson like several times. Like I'm telling you, this team has so much speed. You had him third, I think?
I had him third in our top defenses.
Yeah. That's what it looked like. That looked like a top 3 defense against an offense that usually has a lot of answers. And just one thing, the size up front, the just different pieces on the back end. Also, the other thing is, just like with Schwartz in the Browns, does Belichick lean into some spot drop, which is the classic zone coverage. You talked about offenses, how they looked back in 2000. That's where we're at right now. Let's bring back some 2000 coverages, baby. The boomers are bringing it back, but it's great because they drop these guys. They keep eyes on the quarterback. There's not as much against the Eagles offense. I think it was a great way it wasn't all the time. It was like a half dozen snaps. It was a great way to take away maybe some back shoulder throws and some other stuff underneath, any kind of switch release stuff. And it'll be interesting if they lean into that a little bit against the Dolphins.
Do you think that's a good plan against the Dolphins? So we're contrasting spot drop zone with pattern match zone. So a lot of the zone coverage that's played in the NFL over the last decade or so, you match routes. So it eventually turns into man at a certain point. Spot drop zone, you're not doing that. You're truly dropping into a zone and having your eyes on the quarterback. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like that would be a decent plan against Miami because all of the motions that they're using are designed, one, to hide guys and to create leverage, but two, to change the number counts right before the snap of the ball. And the number counts dictate how you match those patterns. So if you're playing spot drop zone, you don't necessarily need to
Oh,
worry about that.
just get
So
my
against a
area.
team that's using all this quick motion, I feel like it actually would be a reasonable changeup.
It's all the rules of the last 5, 6 years that offenses have adapted. The jet motion, the speed motion, the 4 strong concepts where 4 guys are going to one field. That's all to beat match. That's all to go. That's all to make defenders' brains break and go, "Who's number 3? Who's number 2? Oh, shit. Oh, there you go. Oh, God, there's a guy 20 yards downfield." Like, that's what it's been designed to do. And now it's just guys hanging out. It's just guys running straight to the sideline with their eyes at the quarterback. And it's just such a jarring thing to see teams do it a little bit more often. So I do think I like how you're saying that. I do think that they might lean into it just to like avoid it's a change up. It's not something you truly lean into, but it's just to make the defense's life easier because you don't have to worry about the number count. And just maybe you trick the quarterback and they're going, "Oh shoot, what is that?" And maybe make them make a mistake.
I wonder if you go back and watch some of the stuff that the Ravens were doing. I don't know this for a fact, but some of those coverages they were playing behind those simulated pressure against the Bengals. I think there was was there some spot drop stuff in there as well?
Yep.
It
Cover
feels
split,
like there
cover
might have
2.
been. Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like
And
there might have been.
the
And so
general
that
simulated coverage is cover 2 because that can trap
yep.
quarterbacks. I've been hot, and then you just have a guy standing there. So, but I think they did do some cover 3 as well. I think just memory at least.
Because I know they're a team I think that's been conscious of how do we make sure that our change-ups to this pattern match stuff keeps offenses off balance. And so
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were a team that would lean into it a little bit. So we mentioned, I think up front, the Dolphins are at a disadvantage against this Patriots front, which I think is
Yeah.
going to be up there with the best in the league the entire season based on the
Yeah.
personnel that they have. On the back end, you mentioned Christian Gonzalez had some mixed moments in his
Yeah.
first start. It's his first start. And now in his
Corner.
second start, he's playing against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Even if I'm bullish on this Patriots defense and the way they played last week,
Mhm.
this is a different sort of challenge for that young DB room, even than the one they saw against the Eagles.
Yeah, just like we said in the top 10 show, there's so many good offenses this year, and and there's so many different ways. Think of how like first off, I wish a reporter could ask Belichick, like, have you seen that kind of speed out motion before? Because I'm curious if you talked about the flex bone at all, because that's what it was similar to. But also like he's like, oh, back in Navy, the Naval Academy when we were running it, like I wanted an answer like that.
You have this thing, it's called Slack. And if you want to send Chad Graff a message and say, Chad, in the next Belichick
Oh,
press
that's a good
conference, you
call.
should ask him if he's ever seen this speed motion before. This is a
That's
thing
a
that's
good call.
available to you.
I know. As anyone that's worked with me knows how my Slack Slack experience is, but also it's Tua does get the ball out quickly, which is this Patriots defense is thrives on if you hold the ball and compress the pocket. So that's another thing too. Is like, yeah, they have answers even if the offense just falls apart. But
I
I'm
don't
just
know,
curious.
man. That's the old version of the Patriots pass rush. Josh Uche is not a pocket pusher. He's
Oh my
winning in like
goodness,
less than 2 seconds.
and Keon White's winning less than 2 seconds. But also just like, isn't it cool just to like the Dolphins are gonna be like 21 personnel with a fullback, and it's so different than like there's like 5 teams using fullbacks, but they all are so different how they use them. It's pretty cool. Like Alec Ingold is used way differently than how the Raiders use their fullback and how the Falcons are using their guy and how Juszczyk is used with the 49ers. So it's kind of cool. Also, like it's something funny with the Dolphins, just like how they get defenses in bad spots.
One other thing to mention about the Dolphins offense before we move on. Sounds like Teron Armstead is going to play. He's been limited in
Yeah.
practice, but he had the non-contact jersey off. So that is a good thing for Miami's offense.